rock and roll. Get ready to rock and roll.
Good evening and welcome back to another episode of Season 3 of Rock and Roll. You're on episode 2 this time, and we're looking back at the first week of schools rugby action, and what a week it was. We've already had one thundering upset on the cards. We've had a few close games, and also we've had, yes, one of those referee attack situations. We'll be talking about that as well. Not a great start, that one, but we'll talk about the rugby more than anything else. And of course, we had Sri Lanka taking on the New Zealand under-85s. That was a stomping game. An outstanding performance from the Sri Lankan Tuskers at the racecourse grounds. And I really hope that you guys will be in Kandy to make sure that you are the 16th man that Sri Lankan team will need when a much improved New Zealand under-85s will take on the Tuskers on Sunday at Nittavela. Hi and welcome to the PodHub Expert Analysis segment where we look at the week's rugby action and look forward to next week's rugby action as well with my co-host Abdullah Yusuf. Abdullah, a really good start to the season. Week 1 was outstanding. Let's have a look at the results. We started off, of course, with the game between Wesley and Prince of Wales, but we'll go with the last game that we had, which was Royal versus Science. 43 points to 10. Royal will be happy with the 43, not so happy about the 10.
Yes, and not quite so with their performance in the first half as well, Shashika, because it was 14-10, and at that moment the game looked very much in the balance. But I guess to Royals' credit, they settled down. Some of their players who came off the bench made a big impact, and they managed to score 29 unanswered points in the second half, which will make them happy. Because also I think the fact that coming into this match, there were a few positional changes as well. So it took a bit of time for the team to gel. And overall, I think they'll be pretty pleased with how that game ended.
Injury-driven positional changes, or you think it was tactical from Royal?
I think it was tactical after what happened in that final, especially in the position of fullback and fly half. There were some big changes. So it'll be interesting to see. They looked a little bit out of sorts in that first half, but as the game progressed, they just seemed to gel and fit into those positions. So overall, I think Royal will be pretty happy with that first outing.
Always a traditionally big second half from Royal, so let's see how that progresses throughout the course of the season. It's only the first match, of course, so it's a good time to try to make some experiments. Let's have a look at our next result. We had Wesley taking on Prince of Wales, which was the curtain raiser of the season, 69 points to 12, and Wesley running riot as usual.
Yeah, that's right. I think it was a really good start for Wesley. Last year's runners-up, I'm sure they're determined to go one further this time, and I think they'll be pretty pleased with that start, although it was against the Prince of Wales team that is just made its way into A Division rugby. But I think on the whole, Wesley will be pretty pleased with that performance as well.
Yeah, nothing much to write home about in that game. They would probably not have wanted to concede 12 points against a much lower ranked opposition, but that's something Terence Henry would definitely be looking at. Let's have a look at our third result, and this one was one of the flashpoints of the season. Sri Sumangala taking on DS. DS, of course, are favourites going into this game because of their A Division rugby pedigree, but 28 points to 26, a 2-point victory for Sri Sumangala in a very close matchup.
Yeah, that's right. But you could sense that it was coming, isn't it, Shashika, the way they played against St. Thomas's in that quarter-final as well. They were just there and thereabouts. And I thought they did really well to contain that DS pack, because that was always going to be the question whether they would be able to do that. And for them to have pulled off a close win down in Colombo, I think will give them a lot of confidence going forward.
They're a team with a lot of rugby smarts, isn't it, Abdullah? Because they saw them attacking quite fast and from broken field, and that was something that was interesting to see. It looks like a tactic that they are using against the teams that are almost always going to be bigger than them, and we saw them almost pull it off against St. Thomas's doing exactly that. So it's interesting to see how they're adapting.
Yeah, exactly. And they probably realized that they cannot win the physical battle as much. So they try to play in the outer channels as much as possible, use the counter-attack to their advantage, because I think their fullback is just brilliant when it comes to the counter-attack. So they just know what their strengths, they understand that, and they play to their strengths. And definitely a team to watch out. And it's just great that we have one of these lesser-known teams just coming up and making a big mark in the league tournament.
Absolutely, certainly. It's great for Sri Lanka rugby as well to have a big pool of players to pick from. Hopefully, these guys will all graduate into the clubs as well. But one incident from that game, Abdullah, which left a bad taste in the mouth. Referee Aruna Shanta reportedly attacked by some of his junior DS coaches, who happen to be his colleagues at the Air Force as well. And there has been police reports done. There have been coaches arrested, but this is something we absolutely do not want to see in the game.
Yes, it was very, very disappointing to see that. And also the manner in which he was chased down, according to the press reports, it's just like, one of those cowboy movies which you just don't want to see happening in everyday life. But also it's good to see that DS have come out and condemned it outright, and they have said that they are going to take action against the old boys who are part of this. And I hope that they do, because a message has to be sent out. We've just started the season. We don't want any of this kind of acts, especially in schoolboy rugby.
Yeah. And I've been told that some of them are DS staff members as well as in coaches. And if they haven't already lost their jobs, the question is, why not? Let's look at our next game. Thurston taking on St. Thomas's. What a game this was. Entertaining right down to the wire. But in the end, a deserved victory for Thurston. You have to say, nobody really managed to convert many tries on that day. But except, of course, the last couple of tries that were converted by both teams. But a 27 points to 24 win, you have to say Thurston were good value for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, St. Thomas's just looked as if they were continuing trying to play catch-up rugby. And eventually it caught up with them. Thurston just persevering, and on the stroke of full time, just going over for the try. And you'd have to say, taking both teams' performance overall, you'd have to say Thurston probably deserved it more than St. Thomas's.
Absolutely.
And St. Thomas's will also rue the fact that the amount of ball they lost in contact, it was really surprising, because St. Thomas, they probably had that physical advantage. But whenever they went into contact, they just seemed to lose the ball. And that was one of the main reasons why it just helped Thurston just keep on staying in the game. And it's going to be a bit tough, long season, because we just heard, I think, that the St. Thomas's coach has resigned as well, which is a bit unfortunate. So, but take nothing away from Thurston and Shamli Nawaz and his coaching staff as well. I think they've done a really good job. They've understood what their strengths are, and they are playing to that. So with this result for this week, it's 2 to Colombo 7 and 0 to Mount Lavinia.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, have a look at that. I hadn't been keeping the geographical tally either, but Abdullah clearly has. But congratulations to Thurston, which was in what was a very prepared victory almost. They knew exactly where to attack St. Thomas's, and St. Thomas's didn't make things easy for them. As Abdullah said, losing the ball in contact, giving away so much possession. And when you do that against a team that really wants a win, there's nothing more you can do about it. But yes, Tristan Healy has resigned just after that one game, and he has gone back home to New Zealand. Lacinta Di Costa takes over as head coach at St. Thomas's, which is a little bit of a conundrum because they really need him in the Sri Lanka camp as well. Those backs need all the help that they can get going up against this reinforced New Zealand backline. But let's see how Lacinta Di Costa manages to juggle his duties, because fortunately St. Thomas's are playing up in Kandy on Monday next as well. So he has a Sri Lanka game on Sunday and a game on Monday as well. So hopefully he'll be able to give Sri Lanka a little bit of time as well. But his first week as head coach, and not under the ideal circumstances, but good luck to him. Next game, we called this, Abdullah, last week as probably the matchup of the week. And Zahira took on Kingswood up in the Kingswood grounds as well. And 20 points to 15 managed to win this one. Didn't live up to its billing as being an entertaining game, but it was quite close.
Yes, well, in terms of suspense, it was entertaining. But I think both teams seemed really nervous. There were a lot of errors from both sides. But the lead kept on fluctuating, which kept all spectators on the edge of their seats. But Kingswood will be disappointed, having played at home to have lost this game. I think they will probably be pretty upset that they just couldn't pull it off. But from Zahira's point of view, I think it's a great result for them because it was one of the most difficult matches, I guess, because they had to go away and play. And the fact that they have pulled it off, I think they put themselves in a good position to try and make it to that cup segment.
Yeah, we always thought that Zahira were going to challenge for that cup segment, and now with Thurston doing them a favour and St. Thomas's having to play catch up on the league table as well, it means that Zahira in a prime position. But of course, don't forget what Thurston have done. They have signalled their intent to the entire group, and Royal will be coming up soon. And how will these neighbours go at each other? We'll find out when we look at the fixtures. Our next result is Trinity taking on Lumbini. Again, 55 points to 12. Trinity using all their bench as well to make sure that everyone gets a run and a comfortable victory in the end.
Yes, I don't think Trinity went top gear either. You just felt that they were in second gear throughout this game and comfortably just put Lumbini away. If we have to be overly critical, as you mentioned previously with Wesley as well, probably will be disappointed that they conceded those 12 points. But overall, I think they'll be pretty happy that they've got a good win to kick off their league campaign.
Yes, they're knockout champions, don't forget, and a professional start to the league campaign. Let's see how they preserve themselves for the later matches. Our next result will be St. Joseph's taking on Ananda, 41 points to 19. St. Joseph's steadily improving.
Yes, it's a massive result for St. Joseph's, I thought, because Ananda too were gaining a bit of momentum after their entry into A Division rugby. But St. Joseph's in their first game to have got such a big win, I think that will give them a lot of confidence. And it will also just give them the confidence that they can probably take on Wesley and St. Peter's and maybe even challenge to try and get into that cup segment.
Yes, certainly. It's a very good result for them because Ananda are not a terrible side at all. Next up, we have Isipatana taking on St. Anthony's. Isipatana travelling up to St. Anthony's as well, and 43 points to 14 was the result there. The Eagles not able to fly high against Isipatana, who have really some points to prove after their knockout performance.
Yeah, that's right. And Isipatana again will be pretty pleased. I think they were under a bit of pressure after that semi-final loss in the knockouts. So the fact that they managed to get a good win against St. Anthony's will definitely give them the confidence they need as well. Just feel that St. Anthony's, whenever they come down to Colombo, they tend to struggle, is Shashika. And it's another one of those instances where they just could not put their best foot forward. So a lot of thinking for St. Anthony's to do, and probably they need to go back to the drawing board and see what exactly happened and what they need to do for the rest of their campaign.
Yeah, it's like St. Thomas's, there just seems to be a dearth of talent, X-factor players that they have, and that's something that they will have to look at developing through the junior structures. One more game to look at for last week, St. Peter's taking on Mahanama, 67-0, and from a coach's point of view, that's the kind of result you want to see when you're playing lower ranked teams. It's 50 plus points and of course no points conceded. So St. Peter's, I feel, Abdullah, are a team that nobody's really talking about. Everyone's talking about Trinity and Wesley, and they'll be quite happy with that for the moment.
Yes, I'm sure they prefer to go under the radar and just build up a little bit of confidence and see. But I've just seen their backs, tremendous talent in that back line as well. And they're definitely going to be contenders for the league title. I have absolutely no doubt about that.
Not the highest score of the week, but certainly the highest winning margin of the week. Let's have a look, of course, at second week's fixtures coming up. What can we expect? Trinity taking on St. Anthony's in an all-candy clash. In Pallakale should be an interesting encounter, but I think Trinity will just have too much.
Yes, you'll have to say so. Trinity will probably get their best 15 onto the park for this game. Traditional rivals as well, so I don't think they'll take any chances. And from Trinity's point of view, it's just building gradually towards that second round, isn't it?
Isipatana taking on DS. This match might be a little bit more interesting than we expect, Abdullah.
Yes, DS will definitely be hurting. There's no doubt about that after that loss to Sumangala. So it'll be interesting to see whether they'll be able to pick themselves up for the Isipatana clash. If they are going to cause the Isipatana some problems, their forwards will really need to step up. Control possession, try and win the gain line as much as possible, and try and deprive Isipatana of much possession as possible. Because I just feel that Isipatana, the backs, definitely have an advantage over the Dons.
The way they've been playing, Mahanama Wesley is probably going to be a Wesley College hiding. And then we've got St. Peter's taking on St. Joseph's, a battle of the Saints very early on, especially after St. Joseph's won the one-day cricket encounter. I'm sure there's going to be some revenge that St. Peter's are going to want to eke out on this day.
Yes, I think probably one of the pick up
Games of the
the
season.
games
Of the week, yeah.
I think they play for the Basil Veeratunga Trophy as well, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a trophy game, a lot riding on it. St. Peter's, yes, they got that easy win against Mahanama, but St. Joseph's will definitely have the confidence that they can upset their rivals, and the win against the Anand will definitely give them that confidence. So I think that's going to be a really interesting game.
Very interesting indeed. Then we have Lumbini taking on Sri Sumangala. That's going to be an interesting one as well, because Sri Sumangala need to be able to bring that same game against the lesser opponents as well. Sometimes you pick yourself up for the big teams, but they've got to make sure that they stay in that headspace that doesn't allow them to relax and allow Lumbini into the game.
Yeah, and that's the point of having that consistency, is to back up your performance. So it'll be interesting to see whether Sumangala will be able to do that. More of the established teams in A Division rugby are able to do that. But when you are a newcomer, just to maintain that intensity week in, week out is not easy. So Sumangala, they have the quality. Lumbini will also be disappointed that they conceded 50 points, although it was to Trinity in Kandy. And there's no doubt that they may have, even at the start when the draw came out, been eyeing this game. But it's not going to be easy. But Sumangala will probably go into that game as slight favourites.
Absolutely, they will. And let's look at the other fixtures that we have coming up. Prince of Wales taking on Ananda. You have to think Ananda will be the favourites in that game, even though they suffered a fairly heavy defeat at the hands of St. Joseph's. Thurston taking on Royal. It's Thurston are confident after their win against St. Thomas's. They showed that they could play to a plan. Royal, as you said, positional shifts as well. Coach Shamli Nawaz is going to be watching that Science College game with a fine-tooth comb. He's probably watched it 300 times already, and he's going to have know exactly what they're going to do. That match might be interesting.
Yes, it is, and it's important that Royal be on top of their game from the start, because Thurston have shown that they have got the ability to stay in the game. Even if they go behind, they've got the ability to stay in the game. As you said, tactically, they're going to be very smart in how they approach. So Royal will also need to identify areas, their shortcomings which were there in the science game, and try and cover those up as much as possible. And I don't think that they will have to have a 70-minute performance, because Thurston are always going to come back at them. Columbus and Derby, and I don't think either school will want to lose that.
Absolutely not. It's a battle for the 138 bus stand, that one. Science taking on Zahira College. I think Zahira are probably firm favourites in that one. Kingswood College versus St. Thomas's. You have to say that up at home, Kingswood are probably going to be favourites for this game, given the way St. Thomas's have played so far. But what I've heard, happily from a St. Thomas's point of view, is that that loss to Thurston has really hurt, and there has been a revival inside the camp. So let's wait and see whether that shows some dividends, and whether Lacinta Di Costa is the answer to the prayers that the Thomians have been having.
Yes, and also I feel in that particular game, both teams would have had ambitions of making it to that cup segment. So it's going to be interesting to see which team, after both having losses, can handle the pressure, isn't it? Because it's a must-win game.
Yeah.
It just, they put themselves into that situation where it is a must-win game. So that brings a different kind of a pressure. So I just feel the team that handles the pressure on the day better will probably end up as victors.
Both teams are losing home games as well, but this time Kingswood will be at home. St. Thomas's traditionally don't travel well, so we'll have to wait and see how that one turns up, because whoever loses that game, it will be 2 losses on the trot and almost no coming back from that in the group stages. So those are the matches that we have to look forward to. Lots of very close action anticipated, of course. And then we were lucky enough to watch a national game over the weekend as well. We saw the Sri Lanka Tuskers taking on the New Zealand under-85s. And when it started out, we thought it was going to be more of the same, New Zealand scoring early. But then Akash Madhushankar scored, and then suddenly Janitha Dilshan scored, and you could see that New Zealand were rattled.
So even in the national setup, Shanika, I think the good thing about it is this time they had a little bit more preparation. They had those 2 hit-outs against the Johara Tigers as well. So all those kind of helped. They looked a much more cohesive unit. I thought the set pieces was brilliant. I thought the scrummaging was really good. Tilna Bandar in the line-out was absolutely brilliant. I don't think New Zealand won a single line out. I think it was just an absolutely
Well, they
masterclass.
did win after Jack Leahy came on in the third quarter of that game.
But
That's
up
when they
until then,
started
I think
winning.
Tilna Bandara was just absolutely brilliant in there. So a lot of positives for Sri Lanka. They'll obviously be a little bit disappointed that they lost the game. But also I feel the reason why they lost was in attack. They just seem to lack a bit of options, isn't it? It's pretty much one-dimensional. And I feel the forwards had a lot of work to do even in offense. And that kind of showed in that last 15 to 20 minutes where they just seemed absolutely knackered.
Yeah.
But I just feel that in the next game, they'll yet have, if they can keep the same combinations going, in attack, they will be much more threatening. And up in Kandy with that massive crowd support, I think they will definitely fancy their chances. And I think you mentioned that a few reinforcements are coming from New Zealand as well. So it shows that the New Zealand under 85 team do realize that they are in a competition here. So let's just see. I mean, and hope all our spectators and the fans in Kandy will throng to Nitawala on Sunday and support our boys.
Yeah, the intelligence that we have is that New Zealand have flown in their scrum half and their fullback from last time, and that means that they will be looking to really run at Sri Lanka and take them on in the wider channels, because that's where we might have been a little bit vulnerable, because they really want to shift the focus away from the Sri Lankan forwards who smashed them back last week plenty of times. But as Abdullah said, Akash Madhushankar's distribution perhaps needed to be a little quicker, and Sri Lanka playing very flat. Another change that we might see is at scrum half for the Sri Lanka team. We might see one of the veterans coming back to try and put a little bit of zip on that ball as well, Abdullah. So perhaps Murshid Zubair can play a little bit deeper and try and get those runners running onto the ball, get guys like Diluk Shadange back into the game if he is starting. So that's going to be an interesting couple of positional changes that we might see, or tactical personnel changes that we might see. Also interesting to see if Dushant Leuki goes in with a 6-2 split to try and make sure that our forwards are fresh for longer in that game. So lots to look forward to in Nitawala.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got to remember that this is just brilliant preparation for that Asian Rugby Championships that's coming later on, where they'll take on Hong Kong and Korea. I heard that UAE may not play this time because of the situation in the Middle East. So it's just brilliant preparation. The profile of this tournament, of this tour has been brilliant for rugby as a whole as well. So let's just hope that the boys will be able to back up their performance and go one better this Sunday.
Yeah, let's see, because I thought they were really got the wrong end of the stick last week as well. There were a few calls that really went quite obviously against Sri Lanka as well, and it wasn't really nice to see that the New Zealand skipper Jared Percival was always in the ear of referee Morgan White, and that's something that hopefully will be spoken about in the match reviews, and hopefully he will be told that he can't appeal like he does in the cricket games that he plays. So we'll wait and see how that one turns out. That's not a good look, Jared. Not a good look.
Welcome to another episode of Fonre Future 15 on Ruck N Roll. This week we are going to be analysing two players from Sri Sumangala College. One, the captain Shashika Bandara, and their fullback / fly half Pasidu Samarakoon. There were some fantastic performances this week, the first week of the Dialogue Schools Rugby League, but these two players caught my eye. We'll have a look at Shashika Bandara first, plays at scrum half, and this is a clip to show you his defensive line. Just look at him. He's the one who is lurking behind the ruck there, and he wins a turnover. We'll have a look at that once again. Here we go. He goes off the base of the ruck, just lurks behind the first line of defense, and as soon as the ball carrier goes to the ground, he's there to win the turnover for his school. So he's a very, very good defensive player. He reads the opposition attack very, very well, and in first phase ball, he's someone who is very difficult to contain and keep out of the game when it comes to defense. Now we'll analyze something a bit different. His attack is equally great. Just look at the support line here from Shashika Bandara. He's the number 9 there. Good offloads coming in from Sri Sumangala College. Another pass comes in, but he's there in support. So from the ruck, he makes his way and makes himself available rather to the ball carriers to make sure that he is omnipresent on the field. We look at that once again. Gets the pass through. It's quick ball off the base and then just stays around in support and gets the ball and darts through to score a try under the sticks for Sri Sumangala College. So that's a clip to show that he is not just good in defense, but he has also the attacks with him. Now we move on to the next clip. Off the base, he's very difficult to contain. He always spots the gaps, Shashika Bandara, and just 5 meters out, if there is a scrum or if there is a ruck that's formed, Shashika Bandara is just going to pick it up and look for the gap. He's not going to go to that rock or guard position. He's going to try and go to that leader position or a bit further than that to try and catch the defense napping. This was a try that he scored. He scored 2 of those tries against DS Senanayake College last week. Now we'll analyze him a little bit further. This is to show how accurate his passes are. His passes go at rocket speed. Comes off the line out and bam, quick pass out to the fly half. And see, as soon as that pass goes that fast from Shashika Bandara, it just makes it a bit difficult to defend because you've already passed the gain line. Here's a look at it once again. Pass from him goes very quick. And once it comes to the fly half, second receiver, once the third receiver gets it, they're already over the gain line. So he makes a lot of meters with just the quick passes that he puts through. Here's another clip for you. This is from last year's game against Vidyartha College up at Pallakale. Just look at how quick the pass is. Goes really, really fast. And then once the ball goes to the next player, they've already passed the gain line. But they win a penalty here. And that penalty is won because the pass is that quick. He takes a quick tap, goes again. So this boy is a very, very good scrum half. And more than that, he's a really good player. Just has the awareness, Shashika Bandara. Another quick look at that. It just allows for the other players that play around him to be able to run into those gaps. And Sri Sumangala College, if you can play around Shashika Bandara, your captain, you're going to have a lot more scores. So Shashika Bandara has got the defense, he's got the attack, and he's got the quick passes. So that's why he features in our Fonre Future 15. We had a look at Shashika Bandara. Now we are going to look at the player who plays just outside him, Pasidu Samarakoon, who slots in at 10 and slots in at 15 for Sri Sumangala College. Here's a counter-attack from him. He is brilliant when it comes to the counter-attack. That's him running off the counter-attack. Now he receives the ball from DS Senanayake College and look at how much of meters he gains for his team. He doesn't kick the ball away, looks up, scans and sees that the DS defense is not coming up on the left-hand side of the pitch. So he runs towards that side and he makes a lot of meters for his team. Now here's him, a counter-attack from him when it comes to the kicking. This is from the Vidyartha College game last year that Sri Sumangala played. He started in at fly half in that game, plays at fullback this season. This is his kick off second phase ball, and that kick too is a very, very good kick. It finds a lot of meters, it finds grass, and then the clearing kick from Vidyartha College, and now he's positioned himself well to receive the ball. Now he looks up, scans, and puts in a fantastic kick that puts Vidyartha College right on the back foot and forces them to make a clearance kick. So those 3 phases, those 2 clips rather, you saw him have the running capability when it came to the counter-attack, but also when it came to kicking. Now one more clip for you. This is the game that happened last week. Here's a clearing kick from Sri Sumangala College, a very, very good kick. Puts it deep. DS Senanayake College reply, and now they're looking for work, Sri Sumangala College. And look at the support line from Pasidu Samarakoon here. He comes in support and then puts a little shimmy on, and the pace on this boy as well is something to adore. He's got the goods when it comes to counter-attack, but he's also got the pace, and that is exactly why he features alongside Shashika Bandara in this week's Fonre Future 15. Stay tuned for next week's picks.
rugby.
Prima Kotumi Fantamari.
Creamy richness redefined. Smooth, soft, spreadable. Introducing Ultra Soft Fonre with canola and sunflower oil.
Every modern office needs sophistication, cutting-edge precision, and seamless support. Which is why every modern professional needs Vantage. For those who demand the best, Vantage delivers. Elevate your performance every day. Vantage for the modern professional.
Hello and welcome back to Rock and Roll on PodHub. This is one of my favorite segments, the recovery room, where we talk about everything about fixing your body and also this time about fixing your mind and how to deal with the kind of pressures that rugby or any sport really puts on you. And we have in the studio, very lucky to have with us today, Nimmi Dissanayake Udumalagala, who is a clinical psychologist and she's a practicing psychologist with certified parenting technician.
Certified parenting practitioner.
Certified parenting practitioner. So she knows what you are supposed to know as a parent and will be able to tell you that for young rugby players, parents who may be having trouble with finding out exactly how to deal with kids who are going through pressure and that sort of thing. What are the pressures you generally come across, Nimmi, when you interview parents, or do you actually see the kids, or do you speak to the parents, or how does it work?
So I do see parents as well as children as well. So what I see is they have pressure which is coming from multiple directions. So main is the performance pressure. So where they need to secure their position in the team and also definitely to win. And then the academic pressure, because most of these boys, they are sitting for their advanced level examinations. So academic pressure when they have exams, so it can be overwhelming because this sport is very competitive.
Yeah.
And what I really understand here is the unspoken pressure, where this sport is always understood and as these boys are expected to be emotionally controlled. And also to be tough. So, and also I see like still there is stigma around being emotionally expressed. So they are not like, they are struggling, but they don't want to even meet their school counselor because they need to showcase themselves as really tough. So these kind of
Rugby
pressures,
players don't go for counseling kind of thing. Yeah.
So that's what I see mainly.
Okay. And what do you say to parents who may come to you with a child who's going through this, or what do you say to a child who might be going through this? Obviously, each case is different, but what are the general trends that you see and what do you try to treat?
So it's exactly not treatment, right, Zila? So what their problem is, there are pressures which have not been addressed and which like they are struggling inside. So, and also sometimes they are not emotionally resilient because they are not taught to be emotionally resilient. So they can be equipped with different techniques like relaxation techniques, visualization, and skills how to regulate their emotions. Because the thing is, more when they are frustrated, then comes burnout. So they get angry, aggression, irritability, and everything. So how to regulate their emotions, those kind of things.
So how do you recognize that? How does a player know that I am now feeling overwhelmed, or I am now feeling anxious, I am now under pressure, and this is the reason? Because these are young kids, like 16, 17, 18, maybe 19 at the most.
Yeah.
How do we teach them to recognize that these problems exist?
So what I say is, when now, like as in parents, when they ask, so I say, like, sometimes these kids might have physical symptoms also, like constant headaches, constant stomach aches, even things like that, and sudden aggression, mood swings. And more than anything, lack of motivation. And also there can be sleep irregularities as well. But what I see here is, once like the player was really into the sport, whom loved the sport, suddenly feels that no, I don't want to go for practices. So that emotional shift, I think, really matters.
Okay. I was speaking to a young boy the other day at one of the matches. He was standing on the sidelines. He was under 14. And he was talking about rugby. And I was like, okay, why don't you play anymore? And he said, oh, I just stopped going for practice. And I asked him why. And he just thought about it and said, just. And he couldn't articulate it. So what do you do, Nimmi, to be able to kind of extract that information that you need to give the best information to the parents?
Yeah, that I must say, so from athlete to athlete, player to player, it's different. Because your struggle and my struggle can be different.
Yeah.
But it's always good for them to have that personal conversation, and also regular emotional check-ins by the parents. Because the thing is this, now we say, okay, you should have a balance. But at the end of the day, even adults, as parents, coaches, teachers, also, I mean, we have our own struggles as well. So it's better always if we can get ourselves equipped also, and then so that we can give them better, so that we can know where we are standing and we can understand them better.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is your advice to coaches and teachers? Because almost more than parents, kids of this age are spending more time with either their teachers or their coaches.
Yeah.
How would you advise them to address these situations before they arise?
So I feel that even for them, because it's for them also, it's a lot of pressure. Because now teachers, in the sense, like they have to achieve their academics, and as well as coaches, they their targets, they need to win the matches and everything as well. So that's what, as I mentioned earlier, it's always good for them also to understand themselves, have awareness about themselves, so that they can understand the kids better. That's all about emotional awareness, emotional intelligence. That's what emotional intelligence is all about.
Yeah.
So I think it's good even for them to have a professional chat with a person who knows about it, and just get advice as well.
Yeah, I've met a few teachers and coaches in my time that probably shouldn't be allowed anywhere near children. And is there some kind of training that is provided at that level to be able to qualify, or is it something that they need to voluntarily seek out?
No, actually there are workshops happening. Even us at Revive, we do constant workshops.
Okay.
For different organizations and different requirements. So it's like, if there's a requirement, so there is definite professional help. But if one is seeking individual help, then obviously he or she, the coach, has to go and meet someone professionally, individually. But there are definitely different workshops for the requirement.
And Nimmi, are you busy in the sense, do you have a lot of kids coming to see you, a lot of parents coming to see you, or is it not many people are interested in this aspect of mental resilience?
Now, I feel nowadays, yes, parents are interested. Children, I think they have the knowledge now. Sometimes I see children really wants to come and see a counselor or therapist, because they need that. But sometimes I feel that parents don't understand. Then sometimes they try to get my number and they contact me, and then sometimes I speak to the parents, and when we build rapport, then they make an appointment. So there is still it's a stigma still here in Sri Lanka. I think here still, especially an adolescent coming and seeing a psychologist, it's still a stigma, and parents are sometimes in denial as well. that the child is struggling.
And do you feel that parents might sometimes think that it's not appropriate for, is that a cultural thing? That they feel that it's not appropriate for a kid to be talking about their problems to a stranger? Is that element?
That's also, I think that's also perception. It's different, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's their own parents. They need to decide what they have to do. But sometimes when these children, they speak to me, they message me, and then they sometimes say, okay, my mother will also get in touch with you. Then I message them and call them, and then we build rapport. And so it's quite a process, but I don't think overseas it happens that way. I mean, you won't be able to talk to a consultant over the phone and just make the appointment. So, but here, as we support, it's like a culture to help each other, so it happens that way.
Nice. So that's so it is an approachable situation. Like if kids feel that they want to pick up the phone and contact a professional, that avenue is available at Revive.
Yes, definitely.
Nice. And where do you see the future of this going, Nimmi? Do you see that it's going to get better with the expectations on these kids now? Is it possible for them to manage if they have the appropriate help? Can they manage the school demands? Can they manage the sports demands? Can they manage their social demands? Is it possible?
Yeah, I mean, if we can help them to have that balance, and if we can help them to shift roles, like when you are an athlete, when you're in the ground, you are an athlete, but when you're studying, you are a student. So if we can help them to manage that shift of roles. And also, one important aspect is mental well-being is not something that go in isolation. So it goes hand in hand with physical well-being and overall recovery as well. So at Revive, so actually the thing is the athlete or the player, what they need is a multidisciplinary approach. So at Revive, there are physiotherapists, there are nutritionists, there are physicians. So it's like a full support system. So therefore, the athlete is taken care of as a whole person. So I think it will improve and support is available for parents, loved ones, everyone as well. So then the support is provided it's a holistic approach. So I think we can improve the whole system.
And you're saying that if you want to be mentally resilient, then you have to be looking after all these other aspects, like the physical aspect, the sleep, the nutrition, all of that. You can't separate one from the other.
Exactly. So because just like sleep, injury recovery, everything, they are interconnected, right? When one goes down, obviously the other will get affected. So when everything goes hand in hand, it's a better approach for the child, better approach for the player, better approach for the team.
And is it concerning the amount of cases you might be seeing or the severity of cases that you're seeing, or is this normal in kind of a clinical sense, what you're seeing now among rugby players?
It is quite concerning, I must say. So, so it is concerning because now I think mental health, it's like we are talking so much about mental health. So people are aware, parents are also concerned about it more than earlier. So I think there is concerning amount.
And you're satisfied with the amount of work that you are doing at Revive in the whole space?
Yes, of course, because as I mentioned, it's a multidisciplinary approach. We are doing everything like together. So the child is taken care of by a mental health service provider, if needed by an occupational therapist, physiotherapist, nutritionist. So yes.
And you said you're a parenting practitioner as well.
Yeah.
What does that mean, Nimmi? And how does that change? How does your approach change when you're dealing with parents?
So as a certified parenting practitioner, so how I help parents is, I myself is a parent. So how to deal with their emotional struggles when we are also having a lot of pressure, and how to be more emotionally aware about the child, and how to be more emotionally aware about ourselves to give them better, and also for us to have a better life.
Okay, so there you have it. You do have to address these issues if you have them. So whether it's your kids or whether you need some tips in terms of parenting, Revive is the place you can go to, run by Durdans Hospital, of course, and Nimmi, along with her team, will be quite happy to assist you. That's our recovery room edition for this week of Rock and Roll. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Hi, I'm Raveen from Fitness First, and today we are going to talk about why strength and conditioning is essential for rugby players.
In rugby, every single thing starts from the ground up. The tackle, the scrum, the line-out drive, the sprint down the touchline. None of it happens without one thing: powerful, conditioned, rugby-ready legs. Today we're going deep on lower body. Why it matters, what it does for your game, and why neglecting it could be the reason you're losing ground when it matters most. Let's start with the most physically brutal set piece in the game: the scrum. When two packs bind and engage, what decides who gets the push? Not the upper body, the legs. The drive in a scrum comes from the quads, the hamstrings, the glutes, and the calves working together in one coordinated explosion of force. Props and locks who train their lower body properly will consistently outgun a heavier opponent who hasn't put in the work in the gym. Exercises like the barbell squat, the Bulgarian split squat, and the Romanian deadlift directly build the exact muscle groups firing in that scrum bind. When your legs are strong, your body stays low, your spine stays neutral, and your drive is sustained. Now think about the tackle situation, both sides of it. As a ball carrier, your ability to stay on your feet through contact, to keep driving forward through a defender, comes entirely from your leg drive. Your glutes and quads are the engine. When that engine is weak, you get stopped on first contact. When that engine is strong, you make hard yards, you stay upright, and you give your support players time to arrive. As a tackler, leg strength is everything. A good tackle is not an upper body technique. It is a full leg drive from a low position through the ball carrier. The explosive power you need for that comes from your posterior chain, your hamstrings and glutes. If those muscles are underdeveloped, your tackles will be high. They'll bounce off and you'll end up on the ground instead of the ball carrier. Trap bar deadlifts are non-negotiable for any rugby player who wants to be an effective tackler. Let's talk about pace. In schools rugby, matches are often decided in those 20 to 30 meter burst situations. A winger chasing a kick, a flanker running a support line, a fullback counter-attacking from deep. That burst speed comes from two places: your fast twitch muscle fibers and your hip flexor and glute activation. Most players only train their quads, but the real secret to sprint speed is hip extension power. How explosively you can drive your hip through on each stride. That's your glutes, that's your hamstrings, that's your hip flexors. Exercises like kettlebell swings, banded hip thrusts, and plyometric box jumps, and sled pushes train exactly that hip extension pattern, and you'll see a measurable improvement. Now let's talk about something that doesn't get enough attention: staying on the field. Rugby has one of the highest rates of lower limb injury across all contact sports. ACL tears, hamstring strains, calf injuries, ankle sprains. These are the injuries that end seasons and sometimes careers. Your legs contain the largest muscle groups in your body, and training them releases more growth hormone, burns more calories, and improves cardiovascular fitness more than any upper body workout will. For a young rugby player, building lower body strength now builds bone density, joint stability, and metabolic health that will serve you for the rest of your life. On the field, you'll be faster, stronger, and harder to put down. Off the field, you'll move better, recover faster, and carry yourself with the physical confidence that only comes from putting real work in. So whether you're a prop looking to dominate the scrum, a back looking to find that extra gear with the ball in hand, or a young player just starting to take your physical development seriously, start from the ground up, train your legs, build your base. Because in rugby, the strongest foundation always wins.
Every modern office needs sophistication, cutting-edge precision, and seamless support. Which is why every modern professional needs Vantage. For those who demand the best, Vantage delivers. Elevate your performance every day. Vantage for the modern professional.
Recovery is more than getting better. It's about getting back to life. At Revive by Durdans, we've built a space where specialized care meets real transformation.
At Revive, we focus on combining wellness and rehabilitation.
Your recovery, your future. It starts here. At Revive by Durdans.
Creamy richness redefined. Smooth, soft, spreadable. Introducing Ultra Soft Fonre with canola and sunflower oil.
Live rugby. Prima Kotumi Fantamari.
Welcome back to Vantage Point by Vantage on Rock and Roll. You are with Jamie Wall, who has been touring Sri Lanka with the New Zealand Under-85 team. He's up in Kandy and he joins us via video link at the moment. Good evening, Jamie.
Good evening, Shashika. Great to be talking with you.
Yeah, fantastic. How's your trip up to Kandy been? You left this morning, right?
Yeah, that's right. We did. We pulled out and took the bus up to Kandy. It was a pretty windy, hair-raising journey. It's not one I'll forget anytime soon, and one that certainly made a few of the team members have to stop and take a few deep breaths along the way. But along the way, we did stop off and see some other locals up here at the Elephant Sanctuary, which was pretty awesome, pretty amazing experience for some of the guys who'd never seen that before. So yeah, pretty special occasion, but happy to be here in Kandy. It's obviously a very different place to Colombo, and we're looking forward to just spending a bit of time here, and of course the game on Sunday.
Yeah, and tell us about the game on Saturday first, though, Jamie. A little bit of a scare for the New Zealand Under-85s. They really knew that they'd been in a game.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, throughout the build-up to this game, before the team had even got here, a lot of the narrative was around the physicality that the Sri Lankan team could bring because of their direct running play and physical or size advantage that they have. So it really came as no surprise that the Tuskers were able to do that. But at the same time, it was a little bit of a surprise that it actually took the New Zealanders quite a while, quite a bit longer than they would have liked to really kind of impose a bit of their will on the game. And I would say a bit because I don't think by the end of it they'd completely done so. So I think that's been the main takeaway from the first Test match, is that things did not go the way that they wanted to. There was some pretty obvious areas of the game that they either need to improve or need to figure out a completely different way of dealing with. Because if the Sri Lankans show up and are able to have a more sustainable game plan this weekend, then this result may well go in a different direction.
Yeah, it certainly could. But of course, it might be a blowout for either side. It might be a close game. All three possibilities very much on the cards. We saw the benches from both teams having an impact, Jamie, and I think that it would be fair to say that the New Zealand bench had a bigger impact. But as if that wasn't enough, you've flown in 2 new recruits all the way from back home.
Yeah, that's right. Jackson and Rocky arrived this yesterday, and are part of this selection mix for this weekend. It's not too much of a secret or a projection to think that there will be some changes to this team, given how many players have been brought up for the match, and just how much that game in Colombo took out of the team. That no one was seriously injured or anything like that. But obviously the training and this heat is not something that a lot of these players are used to. So we'll probably expect some fresh legs on the weekend.
Well, that's something Dushant Leuke and his team can certainly take away with them. They've forced the New Zealand under-85 to actually fly in new players to be available for the match on Sunday. So that's a moral victory, if nothing else. But do you think that there's going to be a change in the way that either team play, Jamie? Do you think there's going to be a paradigm shift, or do you think it's just a slight tweak to what happened on Saturday?
Looking at the way that the game unfolded, I think that the Sri Lankans can be very pleased with the way that they played, because it felt like they went in with a plan that they executed quite well for the first 50 odd minutes. And ironically, it was after the yellow card to Pasidu that things started to kind of fall apart for them. That moment seemed to galvanise the team quite well, I thought, and they actually enjoyed their best period of attack after that. But like I said before, if they can refine that game plan, and one thing that was very impressive was the increase in quality of the kicking game from the Sri Lankans, which I think last year was pretty aimless, to be perfectly honest with you. This seemed a lot more refined, a lot more targeted on the New Zealanders, and the kick chase was pretty impressive as well. And so if they can base something around that and their set-piece dominance, which, the scrum could have potentially been a penalty to Sri Lanka every single time, and the line-out was reduced to a bit of a lottery. And the only reason why it wasn't a complete dominance is because Sri Lanka were having a little bit of trouble with their line-out as well, I thought. But yeah, if they can do that, then yes. It's more about the New Zealanders being able to play the game they wanted to when they came over, which was to establish dominance early, play on top of the Sri Lankans, and get the ball wide to some exciting backs. They never really got to do that on Saturday. They had to problem solve their way out of it, which is an impressive thing to be able to do. But you look at the tries that they scored, the 3 of them, one was off a charge down, one was off a line-out drive, and the other one was off a quick throw-in. It was hardly beautifully constructed rugby that was scoring those tries. So I think if there's going to be any shift, it's going to have to come from the New Zealanders if they want to achieve the result that they came here to do.
Yeah, certainly they will. And as you said, they did problem solve at halftime, and they certainly will be problem solving to this preparation week. And today's probably been a day off, and they go back at it tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah, so it's a travel day, and like I said, that bus trip was an interesting experience for a lot of people. So it's not like they did nothing today. There wasn't any training, but training will restart tomorrow. and then carry on with a day off on Thursday. Obviously, the game is on Sunday, so extra day of preparation to be factored in, which allows for that day off. Other than that, business as usual.
And Kieran Reid visiting the camp as well, that must have inspired the boys. And what did he have to say about preparation, Jamie?
Yeah, fan to have Kieran Reid, the most capped All Black of all time and former captain, two-time World Cup winner. He's got a list of accolades that would take me all night to tell you. But his simple presence of being there, he was pretty impressed with what he saw at training. He's familiar with under 85s rugby. He made the comment that it's great for people wanting to get into the game because you can sort of really play any position you like. And he just had a few words about the line-out. It was obviously an area where the New Zealanders struggled on the weekend, so they were keen to tap into his knowledge around there. And so he passed on a bit of advice around that, which I'm sure everybody was really appreciative to hear. And then just a few other things about adversity and stuff from his career as an All Black, which is just absolutely invaluable to a team like this, who a lot of these guys grew up watching him play at the highest level and achieving some of the greatest things possible in a black jersey.
Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic presence to have around the camp, I'm sure, and hopefully he'll be able to drop into the Sri Lanka camp and impart some words of wisdom to them as well. That's the kind of tour it is, building these fraternities as well. So it's great to have Kieran Reid in Sri Lanka, as it is to have you, Jamie. Thanks a lot for joining us. And a personal recommendation for you, do take the skipper down to the Askeria Stadium. It's a wonderful cricket ground, and he can practice a lot of his appealing there as well.
You're not letting this one go.
Not letting this one go. Not letting it go.
Well, I'm sure we'll have a few more words to say about this on Sunday. I'm really looking forward to seeing you again and calling this game. It's going to be a fantastic occasion.
Likewise, mate. Thanks for joining us, Jamie. See you on Sunday.
See you soon.
Thanks very much. That was Vantage Point by Vantage. Thanks very much for joining us on Rock and Roll. Hi guys, welcome to the flip card game brought to you by Prima Kottumi Hot and Spicy. As you know, we play the flip card game deciding whether something is hot, something is spicy. It's something you have an opportunity to do as well after we finish with the game and stand yourself a chance to win some great Prima Kottumi gifts. First question. A team winning through pure rugby IQ rather than physical dominance. Yeah, totally. We love it. Second question. St. Joseph's using their forwards creatively in midfield to break defensive lines. Hot or spicy? We all agreed today. DS Dissanayake transitioning from defense to attack faster than most teams. Hot or spicy? Wow, agreed again. The reason that we think it's spicy is because we don't quite agree that that's what they did, because DS probably didn't transition fast enough, which is why they got beat. Next question. St. Thomas is sticking to structure even under pressure. Definitely spicy, because they didn't stick to any structure at all. If they stuck to a structure, they might have actually taken that game close, but well, that's the end of the game for us, but this is the start of the game for you. You can vote hot or spicy to this question and win yourself a 5,000 rupee gift pack from Prima Kottumi. Smart teams win more games than physical teams over a full season. Is that hot or spicy? Let us know, and one of you who gets what we think is the correct answer, the majority answer, will win goodies from Prima Kottumi, just like Tiana Bibile did last week. Congratulations, Tiana. See you next week on the Flip Card Game by Prima Kottumi. On Rock and Roll, we don't give you an opportunity just to listen to the best analysis. We allow you to actually participate in the best analysis. Let's see how good you are at listening to what we predict and making your predictions as well, comparing them to the results of the week before, and see where you are on the leaderboard in the hunt for 100,000 rupees at the end of the season. All you have to do is go to www.podhubmatchup.com and make sure you send in your predictions for that day's game or any of the week's games before 12 noon on the day of the game. If you are the person with the highest number of correct predictions at the end of the season, you win 100,000 rupees. PodHubMatchup.com. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Rock and Roll. It's been a fantastic episode. We've looked back at week 1 and there's been so many upsets and maybe upsets that we can anticipate in week 2 as well. Don't forget that Sri Lanka plays once again, and be up there in Nitawala to support the Sri Lankan Tuskers as they take on what will be a very much improved New Zealand under-85 side. They got the scare of their lives at Racecourse, and hopefully they will be back much stronger for that, and hopefully Sri Lanka will be back much stronger for that as well. Don't forget to make your predictions on PodHub Matchup. Stand yourself a chance to win some outstanding prizes at the end of the season as well. 100,000 rupees up for grabs. Don't forget to read our column also in the morning newspaper. We'll see you next time on Rock and Roll.
Get ready to rock and roll!